The sun bled across the desert sky like a wounded beast, spilling gold and crimson over the quiet town of Dry Creek. The streets were mostly empty. A couple of ranch hands stumbling out of the saloon, the blacksmith locking up, a dog barking somewhere near the stables. It was another evening in a place where time moved slow and people moved slower. That was until Cassidy Lee came riding in. Her horse, a tired but loyal mare named Juniper, kicked up a trail of dust behind her. Her wide-brimmed hat shadowed a face that looked carved from determination itself. Her boots were coated in dirt, her shirt torn at the shoulder, and a trickle of blood ran down her arm from a wound she hadn't bothered to fix. Cassidy wasn't the kind of woman who asked for help. She wasn't the kind who said thank you either. She'd grown up fighting for every breath she took, an orphan left on the trail, raised by ranchers, hardened by cattle drives, and feared by men twice her size. The folks in town said she had more grit than any outlaw who ever rode these parts. But even grit has its limits. By the time she reached the doctor's office, her head was spinning. She dismounted, stumbled, and caught herself on the railing. The sign above the door read, Dr. Elias Harlan, Medicine and Mercy. She smirked bitterly. Mercy, huh? We'll see. Inside, the doctor looked up from his desk. Elias Harlan was a man molded by patience. His hair had started to grey at the edges, and the lines on his face spoke more of sleepless nights than age. He'd once been a field doctor during the border wars, patching men who didn't always live to see the sunrise. Now he treated coughs, broken bones, and the occasional gunshot wound, but none of them as stubborn as Cassidy Lee. You again, he said, recognizing her instantly. She leaned against the wall, trying not to show her pain. Don't start lecturing, just need a patch-up. He stood, his expression unreadable. Last time you said that, you left before I could. Even stitch the wound. She smiled faintly. Still healed, didn't it? Barely, he said, walking over. Sit down before you fall down. She hesitated, pride and exhaustion at war, but the ground tilted under her boots, and she finally dropped onto the cot. The doctor rolled up his sleeves, his movements steady, calm, professional. When he reached for her arm, she pulled back slightly. I can handle it myself. He looked her straight in the eyes. Just lay back. Let me handle it. Something in his tone, firm but not commanding, kind but unyielding, made her relent. She exhaled and leaned back, jaw clenched, watching him work. The sting of the alcohol made her hiss through her teeth, but she didn't flinch. You're lucky, he muttered, dabbing the wound. Bullet just grazed you. Lucky? She said dryly. Didn't feel lucky when the rustler aimed at my head. You shouldn't have gone after them alone, he said. I don't wait for anyone, she replied. When something's mine, I fight for it. He paused, meeting her gaze. Even if it kills you? Cassidy didn't answer. She didn't have to. When he was done, he tied the bandage neatly and said softly, You don't have to carry the world alone, you know. Cassidy stood, rolling her shoulder. World's lighter when you don't trust anyone else to hold it. He watched her head for the door. You'll be back, sooner or later, he said. She stopped at the threshold, silhouetted against the fading sun. Maybe, but next time I'll try not to bleed on your floor. And with that, she was gone, riding back into the dust, leaving the doctor standing there with a quiet ache he couldn't name. Outside, the wind whispered through the valley, carrying the scent of storm clouds. Something was coming, and neither of them knew that fate was already saddling up to meet them. 3 weeks passed. The nights grew colder and the town quieter. Dry Creek had always been a lonely place, but lately it felt emptier without the sound of Cassidy. Lee's horse echoing through its streets. Dr. Harlan told himself he didn't care. He was a man of science, not stories. But sometimes, when the desert wind howled like a lost spirit, he'd look out his window and wonder where she was. Then, one stormy night, his wandering ended. A pounding at the door jolted him from his thoughts. The sky outside was dark with thunder, rain beating the earth like war drums. He opened the door, and there she was. Cassidy stood drenched, her hat gone, her face pale. Blood streaked her shirt again, worse this time. Rustlers, she breathed. They came back. He caught her before she fell. Get inside. She tried to shrug him off, but her strength was gone. He guided her to the cot and tore open her sleeve. The wound on her side was deep, jagged. She had ridden miles like this, half dead but refusing to stop. "You're insane," he said, grabbing clean gauze. She smirked weakly. "Told you, I don't wait for anyone." He shook his head, pressing a cloth against the wound. "You'll wait for me now, or you'll die." "I've been closer," she murmured, eyes fluttering. "Not on my watch," he said firmly. The storm raged outside, lightning flashing across the windows. He worked fast, steady hands despite the blood and thunder. Cassidy lay still, eyes half open, watching him through the pain. "You always this bossy?" she whispered. He almost smiled, only with patients who forget they're human. When he finally finished and the bleeding stopped, he wiped his brow. "You need rest, real rest. No riding, no fighting, no pride." "Pride's all I've got," she muttered. "No," he said quietly, "you've got a heart that refuses to quit. That's worth more than pride." She stared at him for a long moment, the kind of silence that says more than words ever could. Then, softly, "You always talk like that?" "Only when someone scares me half to death," he said. Cassidy laughed. A weak, broken sound, but real. "Didn't know a doctor could scare easy. I didn't." "Either," he admitted. Outside, the rain began to slow, turning from thunder to a soft, steady rhythm. The fire crackled low, throwing a warm glow across the room. "Why do you care, Doc?" she asked after a while. "About me, I mean. You've got a whole town to patch up." He hesitated. "Because you ride through life like it owes you nothing, and I can't stand watching you bleed for a world that never says thank you." Her eyes softened. "Maybe I just need someone who'll say it for them." He met her gaze. "Then thank you, Cassidy Lee." The words hit her harder than any bullet. For the first time she had no comeback, no smirk, just a quiet breath, the sound of a wall finally cracking. She closed her eyes, whispering, "Don't get used to patching me up." He smiled faintly. Too late. When dawn broke, the storm was gone. The town shimmered under the clean morning light, as if washed new. Cassidy stood at the door, her arm in a sling, hat back on her head. "Guess I owe you again," she said. He shook his head. "Just try not to make it a habit." She grinned. "No promises, Doc." As she mounted Juniper, he stepped onto the porch. "Cassidy!" he called out. She turned, reins in hand. "Next time you ride into trouble, bring backup." She tipped her hat. "Maybe I already found some." And with that she rode off toward the horizon, sunlight glinting off her silver spur. Dr. Harlan watched her go, his heart lighter than it had been in years. Somewhere deep down, he knew she'd come back, not out of pain this time, but maybe out of choice. Because in a land of dust and pride, where people fought to survive another day, Cassidy Lee had found something rare, a reason to stop fighting, even for a moment. And maybe, just maybe, that was what healing really meant. If you believe even the toughest hearts can heal, and that love can bloom in the dust of the Wild West, then don't forget to subscribe to our channel. More Western tales are coming your way, stories of courage, redemption, and the kind of love that can outlast any storm. Saddle up for the next ride.